Rich Dad Poor Dad, Lesson-1, Part-4. Mike's dad, whom I call my rich dad, owned 9 of these little superettes, each with a large parking lot. They were the early version of the 7-Eleven convenience stores, little neighborhood grocery stores where people bought items such as milk, bread, butter, and cigarettes. The problem was that this was Hawaii before air conditioning was widely used, and the stores could not close their doors because of the heat. On two sides of the store, the doors had to be wide open to the road and a parking lot. Every time a car drove by or pulled into the parking lot, dust would swirl and settle in the store. We knew we had a job as long as there was no air conditioning. For 3 weeks, Mike and I reported to Mrs. Martin and worked our 3 hours. By noon, our work was over and she dropped 3 little dimes in each of our hands. Now, even at the age of 9, in the mid 1950s, 30 cents was not too exciting. Comic books cost 10 cents back then, so I usually spent my money on comic books and went home. By Wednesday of the 4th week, I was ready to quit. I had agreed to work only because I wanted to learn to make money from Mike's dad, and now I was a slave for 10 cents an hour. On top of that, I had not seen Mike's dad since the first Saturday. I'm quitting, I told Mike at lunchtime. School was boring, and now I did not even have my Saturdays to look forward to. But it was the 30 cents that really kept me going. This time, Mike smiled. "What are you laughing at?" I asked with anger and frustration. "Dad said that this would happen. He said to meet with him when you were ready to quit." "What?" I said indignantly. "He's been waiting for me to fed up?" "Sort of," Mike said. "That's kind of different. He doesn't teach like your dad. Your mom and dad lecture a lot. My dad is quite a man of few words. You just wait till this Saturday. I'll tell him you're ready." "You mean I've been Sarah?" "No, not really, but maybe Dad will explain on Saturday." Waiting in line on Saturday. I was ready to face Mike's dad. Even my real dad was angry with him. My real dad, the one whom I called my poor dad, thought that my rich dad was violating child labor laws and should be investigated. My educated poor dad told me to demand what I deserve, at least 25 cents an hour. My poor dad told me that if I did not get a raise, I was to quit immediately. "You don't need that damn job anyway," said my poor dad with indignation. At 8 o'clock Saturday morning, I walked through the door of Mike's house when Mike's dad opened it. "Take a seat and wait in line," he said as I entered. He turned and disappeared into his little office next to a bedroom. I looked around the room and didn't see Mike anyway. Feeling awkward, I cautiously sat down next to the same 2 women who were there 4 weeks earlier. They smiled and slid down the couch to make room for me. 45 minutes went by and I was steaming. The 2 women had met with him and left 30 minutes earlier. An older gentleman was in there for 20 minutes and was also gone. The house was empty, and here I sat in a musty, dark living room on a beautiful, sunny Hawaiian day, waiting to talk to a cheapskate who exploited children. I could hear him rustling around the office, talking on the phone, ignoring me. I was ready to walk out, but for some reason I stayed. Finally, 15 minutes later, at exactly 9 o'clock, Rich Dad walked out of his office, said nothing, and signaled with his hand for me to enter. "I understand you want a raise or you are going to quit," Rich Dad said as he swiveled in his office chair. "Well, you are not keeping your end of the bargain," I blurted out, nearly in tears. It was really frightening for me to confront a grown-up. "You said that you would teach me if I worked for you. Well, I have worked for you, I have worked hard, I have given up my baseball games to work for you, but you haven't kept your word, and you haven't taught me anything. You are a crook like everyone in town thinks you are. You are greedy, you want all the money and don't take care of your employees. You made me wait and didn't show up and did not show me any respect. I'm only a little boy, but I deserve to be treated better." Rich Dad rocked back in his swivel chair, hands up to his chin, and stared at me. "Not bad," he said. "In less than a month, you sound like most of my employees." "What?" I asked, not understanding what he was saying. I continued with my grievance. I thought you were going to keep your end of the bargain and teach me. Instead, you want to torture me. That's cruel. That's really cruel. I'm teaching you, Rich Dad said quietly. What have you taught me? Nothing, I said angrily. You haven't even talked to me once since I agreed to work for peanuts. 10 cents an hour. Ha! I should notify the government about you. We have child labor laws. My dad works for the government. Wow, said Rich Dad. Now you sound like just most of my people who used to work for me. People I have either fired or who have quit. So, what do you have to say? I demanded, feeling pretty brave for a little kid. You lied to me. I've worked for you and you have not kept your word. You haven't taught me anything. How do you know that I have not taught you anything? Asked Rich Dad calmly. Well, you have never talked to me. I have worked for 3 weeks and you have not taught me anything, I said with a pout. Does teaching mean talking or taking a long lecture? Rich Dad asked. Well, yes, I replied. That's how they teach you in school, he said, smiling. But that is not how life teaches you. And I would say that life is the best teacher of all. Most of the time, life does not talk to you, it just sort of pushes you around. Each push is a life saying, wake up, there's something I want you to learn. To watch the next part of this video, like, share, and subscribe to our channel.